Hello and welcome to the 6th installment of my grading of all of the expansion cards in Terraforming Mars. This is the 5th episode on Venus Next. As always, if you want insight into the grading system, check out the description or click on the link in the top right hand corner to get to the first video, where I explain it all. If you want to know how I go about ranking the expansion cards compared to the base game cards, check out the first video of rating expansion cards, which is linked in the description. But let's get started. We start off today's episode with a card that narrowly didn't make my top 5 Venus Next cards. Sulphur Research. This card is basically the engine player's dream. It holds the two most engine-y tags, it can draw 3 cards instantly, making it a great surprise play for planner, and it grants 2 points on top. And the requirement is somewhat manageable for engine players. You want to go for some Venus tags and fun Venophiles anyways, probably. But obviously, the card has some downsides as well. If you don't hit the 3 Venus tag requirement, it's really subpar, and I wouldn't want to play it without serious combo potential in that case. Also, it is kinda expensive, and since it neither holds a building or space tag, it cannot be paid for with mineral, nor does it benefit from space discounts, making it even less playable. And lastly, it is of course absolutely useless in a rush. But the fact that it will help you with your Science and Jovian engines, and also draws 3 cards, means it's always a threat in a draft. Do not underestimate Sulphur Research. I think it will just make it into the lower end of A tier. A card that definitely won't be placed that far up is Ishtar Mining. This card seriously needs some help. Sure, it's a whole 2 MC cheaper than Titanium Mine, and its tag can be helpful for Venophile, but in exchange it requires 8% Venus. That's 4 freaking bumps. Even if you go for Venus yourself, it will take a few gens to get there, and the likelihood that multiple players go for Venus, such that it is reached in Gen 1 or 2, is super low. Also, without Prelude 2, there are no preludes that could help you out with this. So, this leaves us with a pure production card that has to be played in the mid game, and isn't even that much cheaper than its immediately playable counterpart. Atrocious. It will land in D tier, and not F though, since it's one of the cheapest Venus tags out there, and Venophile is always active if you're not randomizing your milestones. That has to count for something at least. Let's get to another horrible card, Jetstream Microscrappers. All of the floater cards that allow you to increase the Venus parameter are really weak, and Jetstream Microscrappers is no exception. I like it more than Forced Precipitation, since that one is even more expensive to use and it's so much slower. Versus Extractor Balloons, it's a tougher call. Sure, Jetstream Microscrappers is much cheaper, but it doesn't instantly grant a bump, and it also doesn't grant you those 4 instant floaters for a Hoverlord push. Since it's still pretty great for that milestone though, I probably still have it above Extractor Balloons, so that's my mini ranking of all of the floater cards that let you increase the Venus. But where does this put JSM in the tier list? Well, it still lands in F tier. It's horrible, let's not kid ourselves here. You have to have Titanium Prod to use it, it's still relatively slow, it doesn't combo well with floater placing cards like Dirigibles since it still needs 2 floaters per activation, it's expensive to play and keep running. I just don't like it. F tier, maybe on the upper end of F tier. But let's stop it with these horrible cards and get to a solid one. Local Shading. This card is a really neat early to mid game production piece, suitable for both engine and rush. Sure, a Venus tag that just grants some development feels more like an engine card, and it is. But the fact that it's so cheap, it grants MC prod, which is great for both rush and engine, and it grants a free stall action, well, those are all factors that make this card good for all strategies. But how does it compare to a more basic production card like Sponsors? Well, you see the numbers on screen right now. Assuming you played Local Shading Gen 1 and use it each gen, taking production each time you get the chance to, it pays back 1 gen later and only takes the lead versus Sponsors in Gen 9. I still like it more than Sponsors due to 2 very explainable factors. A, it always works for Venophile, and similar to Ishtar Mining we talked about earlier, it is a really cheap tag for the reward. And B, it's a free stall action which has a lot of value in and of its own. I actually would place this card in the lower end of B tier because of these 2 factors. And lastly, we get to Lunar Metropolis. This is another pretty decent engine card. Engine players love to develop space discounts, get Titanium Prod and a lot of Earth tags down. All things that improve the playability and quality of this card. Let's get the payoff schedule of Lunar Metropolis on screen and see how many Earth tags you need for this to be any good. With 5 tags it pays off in 6 gens, which is the same time Sponsors takes to pay off. But that card can be played immediately, relying on nothing. If you need 4 gens to get to 5 Earth tags, you'd want something better than Sponsors. Well, you shouldn't forget about the 2 points in Lunar Metropolis. If you factor those in as 5 MC per VP, our repayment schedule changes dramatically. Now you just need 3 tags for this card to pay back in 6 gens. Given that Lunar Metropolis holds 1 on its own, that is a really easy requirement. But you shouldn't rush down Lunar Metropolis like that in my opinion. You don't want to be paying that much money for points in the early game. Better wait for a few more turns, get some titanium and a few space or earth discounts, and then get this down for a ridiculous payout. Lunar Metropolis is a great banker swing and a great mid to late game engine card overall. I think it deserves to be placed in B tier. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with my ratings or if not, how you would have rated these cards differently. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And lastly, please check out my Twitch and my Twitter. See you in the next video.